let's move on to a series here that we're actually all really looking forward to, I think, in Toronto and Seattle. I think what we're talking about here is Toronto and their offensive juggernaut of a lineup going to go ahead and really take on the magical Mariners right now and see if they can handle that. A team that's just playing really well all over the field, really, and doesn't necessarily do anything way better than everybody else, but does everything really well. So minus 170, though, for Toronto on this series line. Seattle plus 140. I know there was some talk before the show amongst us about a potential sweep for the Jays as well. That would get you plus 180. Let's look at game one here as well. Minus 152 for Toronto, plus 126. You've got Manoah and Castillo on the mound there, Castillo for those Mariners. So, Mo, go ahead and kick us off in this one. What are you looking at both in the series here and in this game one? I imagine game one's pretty easy to talk about if you're feeling pretty good about a series price already.
Yeah, I thought this one was maybe a hair underpriced, but it wasn't enough for me to pull the trigger on a bet. I do think that, surprisingly enough, when you look at across the board, I guess it's surprising in the sense of like the Mariners looked like they were outperforming the Jays for a lot of the season. But honestly, the numbers say the Jays have better pitching, better defense, better offense. Really, the only place where the Mariners have a clear advantage is in their bullpen. It's not like the Jays have a bad pen. It was kind of middle of the pack, but the Mariners obviously have a tremendous bullpen. That sort of thing is very, very, very useful in the playoffs because those guys can soak up a few extra innings. I do worry about a Mariners offense that the numbers say are above average. I don't know if I believe in it, especially with Jesse Winker being out right now. I don't think he's going to come back for this series, it looks like, because I don't think it's possible because he just went on the IL a few days ago. I do wonder what happens if this goes to game 3, though, because I don't really know what the Jays have pitching-wise after Manoah and Gausman. I guess what I'm saying is I like the Jays to sweep. If you want to make a wager on the Jays, it seems too high to me, plus 180. I honestly thought this should be... I have the Jays as pretty strong favorites in the first 2 games. But if it goes to game 3, the Mariners have better depth in their starting pitching than the Jays do. My best guess is Jose Barrios would go. He's had an awful season, but I don't know who else they can really realistically throw out there, and they're paying him all that money. Other option is basically Ross Stripling. It's pretty dicey for the Jays if this goes to game 3. Now, I will say Robbie Ray, other option, struggled down the stretch, but I think that he can probably ramp his velocity back up to 94, 95 when he was down to like 93, which is a velocity he hasn't been good at. But if he just throws a shorter outing and like maybe piggybacks with George Kirby or, I think it would be George Kirby because I'm seeing Logan Gilbert projected in game 2. So I do think the Jays to sweep might be worth a look, but this is not a series I'm very excited about betting. I'm just going to hopefully sweat the Jays through for my future.
Yeah, tough series to forecast because of the lack of postseason experience on both sides. I feel like the Blue Jays organizationally and with George Springer, at least as a leader there, have a little bit more know what to expect in the postseason, and they do come in much hotter. I definitely like them in game 1 with Manoah, who's extremely steady, Castillo a bit more of a wild card. But as Mo goes through it, the Mariners have the advantage in starting pitching beyond that. So it is at the same time, like, I just think this Blue Jays lineup is good enough to overcome. I mean, unless they're facing a true ace to really overcome that matchup, to make guys work to get to that bullpen early. So I think, if you're going to bet them, I would rather take them to win the first 2 than to at minus 150 to win this one. But really, I mean, the angle we're looking at with all 3 of these, right? We're looking at a team that played in a much, much tougher division going up against a team that didn't. And that's why the projections are off, because if you play in a tougher division, you have a worse record. You might get seeded lower like the Phillies and the Rays. And I think if you took all 3 of those, you probably are going to be right on 2 of them at least, just based on the fact that those projections are off, but based on pure record. But they could be better teams and more prepared for these 3-game wars than the other teams that played in weaker divisions.
All great points, guys, and a fun series, but definitely the one with the fewer stars, if you will, on both sides of the ball.